Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Jackie Fish and welcome back to some more Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD. As you can see, the sun is glistening on the armor of the French warriors as they advance further across the small hills and into battle. I'm super excited for this one as it is a 4 vs 4. We have close to 12,000 soldiers on the field of battle, and I think it's going to be just one hell of an engagement. So if you guys are enjoying these battles, make sure you do go ahead and drop a like and a comment down below. The more likes these videos get, the more likely I will do more of these epic scenario battles. And as you can see, the battlefield is vast. We have soldiers all the way over on that far extreme left flank. We also have some pretty gnarly elephants as well. So let's take a look at what the forces are bringing. You can obviously skip ahead using the timestamps down below on the little bar right there. So on the front line for the French, we do have actually a ton of gunners right here. A lot of musketmen coming to bear against their foes. And that's what I really do like. You kind of like this very much shot and pike type feel of a battle, as it's not really a battle we get to see too often. So yeah, we have a bunch of these Genoese crossbowmen as well, mixing up with the rest of the French infantry. Behind that, we do have some early period infantry and then some more heavily armored knights just behind that, supported obviously by the I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. I was about to, and then I decided against my best judgment not to. So we have some pretty elite French halberds, and then we also have some Swiss halberds, and then obviously the heavy knights as well. I think it's actually Joan of Arc right here. Joan of Arc right here somewhere leading the soldiers into battle. Yeah, there she is. Hopefully she can be victorious. As we go further along the battle line, we do have the Electors of Trier, and they have a ton of heavy shock knights over on this right-hand side supporting their French allies. Obviously, we're going to have the Elector Guard right here. These guys are just such a good-looking shock infantry, ready to really get themselves stuck in. Obviously, these huge weapons are going to be great for armor piercing. Obviously, along their front line as well, they're going to have infantry, as well as halberds, Swiss pikes, and other forms of infantry. As we continue to go down the line, we obviously have the Burgundians now as well. Pikemen, heavy knights, and obviously more shock infantry. Sorry, I know I've said obviously about 6 times in a row just then. I will not say it again throughout this video if that was annoying you. Over here on the far left, we do actually have the Genoese, and they have some of their crossbowmen scattered across that front line, supported by their elite Pavese shields. Obviously, the Italians really pioneering this Pavese shield. Behind that, we do have some heavy knights, and then finally, we do have the General's Bodyguard back here, pushing forward with his mace. Over on the other side of things, we do have a force from Portugal. Again, they're going to be having a lot of gunners and, you know, cannons and all that lovely stuff. The Portuguese really pioneering that type of combat on the battlefield. And you guys can see them moving forward. Behind that, we do have some halberds, obviously heavy knights, and then finally the Portuguese cavalry mounted, ready to move in, both in the distance and close and personal. As we continue to go down the battle line, the next kind of force that is entering the battlefield, I actually can't remember what faction this is. I believe it's a Persian faction. I can't exactly remember. Oh, maybe these are the Mongols. Are these the Mongols? Yeah, I guess these are the Mongols, because these are Mongol soldiers right here. We have some of the Mongolian horses. Again, they're going to be elite on horseback, and then when they do finally decide to collide into the enemy, that's going to be extremely deadly. We also have some elephants back here as well. There's actually about 4 or 5 units of elephants scattered throughout. Are these the cannon elephants as well? Or are these the normal? No, these aren't the cannon ones. Yeah, these are just horses. These aren't elephants. Because I know they are working on, or there are already cannon elephants in the game. But either way, the Mongolians do also have a bunch of these gunners as well, supporting them out as best as they can, ready to fire down. And we also have the Holy Roman Emperor in here as well, leading another force of gunners. Does seem like the forces are getting closer and closer to engage, but just quickly to kind of round things up. The Swiss, again, going to be entering the battlefield on the far right flank, supporting the HRE in all their glory. And once again, they're going to be having kind of a nice mix of forces, whether it's, you know, Pavese shields, heavy late period infantry, cavalry, and also guns. So as you can see, the French, if we get this battle started now, the French are really pushing to try and take this hill, because if they can secure this hill up here, they can then have all their gunners just firing down onto the enemy, which is going to be so effective, and it's going to really be able to disrupt their formation. So I really like this rush by the French for advancing their cavalry. I mean, honestly as well, it might not even be a bad idea to just kind of like throw your cavalry forward to really try and disrupt the enemy as much as possible. The Genoese crossbowmen are going to be able to actually do some serious damage to the gunners as well on the other side, especially if they can take this hill. I mean, just look at that battlefield right now. The soldiers in the distance, the crossbow fire starting to volley off onto the enemy, and that's going to really prompt, I think, the other side to actually start advancing forward. And yeah, you see that amount of crossbow fire going down in there. It's actually killing too many of these Swiss gunners right now, but their armor will start to dwindle, and every gun they do take out is going to be pretty valuable, forcing them out of that range and actually retreating back. And they've really gone ahead and given up this hill to the French, which is, you know, nothing to complain about. It's going to be a great advantage. Halberds on the flank, really pinning them in, and you guys can see already over on this flank, look at that, we have the Genoese really outflanking and smashing in the defensive position right there. It does seem like the blue team is really kind of pinning them in the corner. Oh, and we have some cavalry charges going on down the battle line. The horses from Burgundia charging forward. However, the guns are going to be able to get out of there in time. And then the Mongolian cavalry, supported by the Portuguese, able to repel them back. I did notice over on this flank, though, yeah, a handful of horses from the Swiss cavalry have actually already been taken down. I wonder if that was something to do with the gunners, yeah, which is set up all the way up on this hill. And this is one of the advantages of having, like, this hill advantage, is you can really just fire down on your opponent super effectively. I also love the way the sun is just glinting off of the armor on these soldiers. It looks so good. These gunners are going to be setting up again. Does seem like, though, that the Portuguese, or sorry, the Swiss, yeah, no, the Swiss are on this flank, are going to be pushing up into that loose formation as best as they can. The gunners are just simply waiting back, preparing to volley off at them. And here we go, yeah, another volley going off there. That's going to be able to do some really good damage here. You already see the blood spattering off in the corner. However, a big cavalry movement being pushed up here by the Mongols. The Elector Count cavalry is going to go ahead and try and counter this. And it still seems like the Mongolians are going to go ahead and commit to this, smashing into the Imperial Knights. The French are also here as well, bringing a lot of what they have to bear. And infantry is also being thrown over to this fight as quickly as physically possible. And this is only ever going to favor the defending side, because look how quickly the infantry can get here for the Blues. They can commit to this fight very effectively. They've got lots more cavalry coming. They've even got this kind of bit of rogue cavalry right here as well that can come in and you kind of intercept all the Imperial Ritter that is now making their way in. They're going to be charging, but they're going to be taking a counter charge right into the side. The French Knights ripping through them. Man, that must have taken a handful of casualties. Not quite yet, but I imagine, yeah, as they pull out, that's going to be pretty deadly. And then the French Knights are going to be continuing on into the gunners of the Swiss. That is not good right now. The French are doing a great job. Another charge right here. Just seems like they're able to bring a lot more cavalry to bear to this fight than the Mongolians. You can see a lot of the Mongolian cavalry pushing down here now, trying to get into the Elector's crossbowmen. However, more and more Burgundian cavalry now arriving, and as you can see, the Mongolian cavalry is now really whittled down. A big old cavalry engagement to kick this battle off. Over on the left-hand side as well, we do have the Genoese cavalry engaging against the Portuguese Spanish Order Knights. And actually seemingly winning this battle. I don't really know why they're retreating, because, you know, obviously, as you can see, we do have some of their Ducal halberds now getting stuck in, which is obviously going to be a great unit to bring to bear against the Spanish Knights. So I'm interested to see why they did really feel the need to retreat back from there. This infantry able to really get kind of in between the horses and, you know, take them out very, very effectively. More cavalry charges as well going off. This battle is just super chaotic. Does seem like, though, the blue side has really put a lot of pressure onto the Holy Roman Empire's side, and these cavalry charges are going in. Even with the gunning support, it's just not going to be enough. However, elephants have now arrived on the battlefield, and they are going to be closing in, trying to turn this cavalry fight into their favor. Oh, also as well, we do have some Nafatoon throwers being lobbed out there as well by the Mongolians. You can see them explosive bombs being thrown down. Luckily, though, for the Trier, Knights are going to be able to pull out of there, kind of avoid these elephants as more and more cavalry gets committed into this. This is like a really daring move by the French because, as you can see, like the Holy Roman Empire can just kind of commit all his infantry to this fight. They've really gone extremely deep into this battle line, and I guess their main goal is just to simply brute force their way through this battle. Does seem like the cavalry charge over there by the HRE going to be able to get in there and rip through a lot of the enemy missiles, which is very unfortunate. Right now we have French versus German, and the elephants have also arrived. Yeah, I mean, as I said, like, this is really, really deep. I mean, I think they're just trying to brute force their way in, but as you can see, the elephants arriving is going to be doing some serious damage. The missile fire coming in. It's just really turning this battle on their side. And another nice cavalry charge there by the Electors of Trier into their former masters. Trying to kill as many of that Imperial Ritter as possible. So yeah, heavy cavalry fights. As well as that, we obviously do have the Genoese down here, receiving charge after charge. About another cavalry charge actually being warned off there by the Pavese, which was lucky because they were not formed up, and that charge would have been deadly. But I think the cavalry able to kind of stop them in their tracks even. But taking the fight to the enemy is always a hard job because they can respond so much more effectively than you can, and we're seeing that kind of erupting through the battlefield. Also, how funny is it that, you know, this is just such a late period battle. There's just guns, pikes, and cavalry really dominating the battlefield. The infantry is really like the second man on this battlefield. That is for sure. And there you go. The HRE were able to warn off the French cavalry and actually come out really effectively, considering how poorly that cavalry fight did go for them to begin with. It does seem like the HRE and the Mongolians have really got off a bit light there. And now it's time for the infantry to move up. Everything else has been, I guess, been softened up for them. So now we're getting the dismounted Trier Knights being lobbed in. And wow, they're actually going to be able to get this charge off onto the gunners. Countercharged by the spearmen, but still able to take down so many of these guns, which is not a bad ploy whatsoever. I'm interested to see if them elephants can find their way into this battle as well, as I imagine they will absolutely rip the enemy apart, but also be the focus point for all of these crossbows. And that's always one of the hardest kind of things whenever you're bringing elephants to the battle, is just when to use them. It's normally very difficult because as soon as you commit a unit like an elephant into the battle, they are just the focus point of every missile on the battlefield. You can see the Pavese, more pikemen being advanced up in the side. Able to really start to thrust that in to the enemy. Does also seem like the Pavese have formed up, which is actually a really good defensive position right now. Preparing this Pavese shield wall is going to be able to really just throw back these royal Pilks, I think is how you pronounce that. Oh, it does also seem like we do have some shock infantry ready to push through this gap right now. And then right into there. I'm not sure if they're going to be going after the elephants. Oh, the elephants are throwing their Nafatoons now onto the Pavese. Hopefully getting a handful of kills. Oh, the shock infantry maybe going after this cavalry. A really nice move here by the Imperial Ritters to get round the side of the mercenary Swiss pikes. But these are mercenary Swiss pikes, the famous pikes, and they will be able to repel the enemy fairly effectively, I think. However, that's not going to stop them. More cavalry just kind of ramming in. This is a really like classic move in 12-12 where you just basically ping pong between units. More cannon fire. I love this battle, man. It's just so chaotic. We have guns firing, pikes hitting one another. A real cool late period battle in 12-12. And as you can see, the scale is just there as well. I also really like as well how the guns are like mixed in as well with the infantry fight. I feel like that's really like shot and pike style. So we take a look at the overall battlefield right now. It does seem like the French are still playing really passive, just using them crossbows to hammer away at the units and really microing their cavalry. Speaking of which, we have another cavalry charge coming in here, able just to flatten the dismounted Imperial Ritter there. That's going to be a painful, painful answer to that. Obviously, the cavalry coming in as well to kind of try and stem the bleeding. However, more horses reinforcing there. But yeah, if we take a nice little zoom out, you can see that the Genoese are really pushing this flank. They need to be quicker, honestly. However, I say that they're not really facing any any combat over on this left-hand side. I'm surprised because obviously there's an entire player's worth of forces down on this left-hand side. Obviously fighting the cavalry fight, but even still, you would think that there'd be much more an advantage for HRE, the Mongolians, in the center here. But even still, it seems like they are really struggling. Balance power-wise. Oh, and it does actually seem, so before we look at that, yeah, it does seem like one of the generals actually going down. I guess that was the Portuguese general being slain. And yeah, as you can see, there's an entire Genoese force able just to really throw themselves up. But yeah, like, I'm surprised this battle is going as well as it is in the center because, yeah, you can see Genoa on the left flank, the French on this flank. I mean, they're really closing the pincers right now. But you would assume that the center of the red line would be able just to completely tear them apart. And I say that they are winning this central fight, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough as more and more of the reinforcements arrive. The French really committing to this battlefield now. And obviously it's only really a matter of time until the Genoese arrive on that left flank, and I think it's pretty obvious who is going to win this battle. So I want to go ahead and give a massive thank you as well, as this battle is kind of closing down, to the guys who sent this battle into me over on my Discord. I really do appreciate it. I haven't been able to get through all the replays on my Discord, but I do love having a nice stockpile that I can just pick from whenever I need to. So I really do appreciate that. And also, I was speaking to Apollo as well, and I think me and Apollo might actually go ahead and start doing some dual commentaries again. We both load up a replay at the same time, and we just basically cast it together. I think that could be a lot of fun. So if you guys are excited for that, let me know in the comments down below, because yeah, it's been a while since me and Apollo have really dived into doing replays again, so that could be a lot of fun. So yeah, as you can see, the HRE, supported by their allies, have actually been able to win this center, but I think the battle is kind of lost at this point. Banzer power bar not looking good. Over 4,500 soldiers on the yellow side with only 2,700, so there's a 2,000 man advantage. And just look at these forces crushing through this flank, the cavalry right into the back of the pikemen. And that is pretty much a death sentence. I think the halberds are trying to form a square before they can, though they are being just smashed down by shock infantry and everything else that is scattered throughout that formation. You can just see so many of the disrupted battle lines now as well. There's really just so many opportunities. The guns are trying their best to kind of get any form of firing down on the enemy, but it's just not going to be enough at this point. They might be able to get another volley off onto these pikes, but again, the Burgundian pikes are moving closer and closer. Can we get a volley off? Yeah, we get a volley off. A handful of them drop, but obviously the reload time on these guns are not going to be effective. The HRE screening as best as they can, throwing in as much infantry into the fight just to buy any time they can. And unfortunately, it would seem as well, oh, that's brutal. Double, triple homicide right there. It doesn't seem like the elephants were really, very impactful. Yeah, you see, that's where the elephants lie right there. It's just so difficult to use them, I think. And you really have to bide your time. And the battle has to stay quite even. And also as well, they're actually pretty hard to use in like 12-12. Because there's so many good missiles in the game. Whereas back in like DEI or Rome 2, you can actually use elephants quite effectively. The French missiles, I love how the French played in this battle, just really defensive, using their crossbows. And they were lucky that they also won on the other flank, because if this army didn't win, then they would have been really, really struggling. But right now, we just kind of have the last remnants of the HRE and their allies, unable to really muster much left. And I'll say this, it was a pretty decisive victory in the end. Over 4,000 men. I mean, we lost over 50% of their army, of course, but still, a lot of their force is still intact. And now it's just a clean-up job for the French forces. Yeah, you can see the Genoese arriving. So it'll be pretty interesting as well to see kind of just exactly how many kills the forces like Burgundia and Genoa actually did get in this battle, because, you know, realistically, I think Trier took the main brunt of the assault, honestly. They were fighting a lot of the enemies, so I'm expecting to see a lot of kills on them. I mean, right now as well, we can see the cavalry doing pretty decent. French missiles, all with a lot of kills as well. Yeah, these guns got over 170 kills, 144 kills. Really nice on that. And right now, we just will simply have one last brave unit, sergeants of the HRE, doing their best, fighting hard, but it's simply just not enough. So yeah, big GG to all the players. I always love these epic 4v4s. I love kind of like the scenario-driven battles as well. They're always great. A close victory. I would say that was more decisive, to be honest. That was a pretty decisive victory. Yeah, look how few men the Genoese actually lost. They lost 464 men. That's pretty goddamn crazy. A lot of their knights just not even getting their hands bloody. It was just, yeah, a lot of their mounted horse and then the crossbows. Burgundia actually got their hands really bloody there. Their dismounted knights paying dividends, right? These actually better be a foot infantry. Okay, I must have missed a lot of the Burgundian foot infantry, I guess. They just managed to clean up the enemy quite nicely. Trier, yeah, a lot of kills on their units. And then the French as well, with their cavalry and obviously the crossbows as well. Over on the other side, you can see the Portuguese cavalry doing okay, but the infantry just seemingly getting wiped away. The HRE, again, the Pavis not doing great, but you don't really expect that. And even the Knights not able to pay for themselves, unfortunately. So yeah, the Sultanate, so this wasn't actually the Mongols, it was the Sultanate. His elephant 74 kills looks kind of good. This guy looks like a Mandalorian, which is kind of cool. But again, nothing too crazy. And then the Swiss, I mean, their Swiss pikes, 148 kills, which is pretty good. But besides that, nothing to write home about. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this battle. If you did, make sure you drop a like and a comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one.